Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Dvorkin, and I'm a managing partner at 4D Capital. We specialize in a very unique mathematical approach to the stock market, where we analyze the market and individual stocks in multidimensional space, and when we do, essentially perfect order emerges. On top of that, we've developed a number of very powerful timing indicators, and when we combine both, we can very often predict what the overall stock market or individual stocks will do going forward in both time and price, and we can typically do it on multiple time frames. I personally believe our work is nearly identical to what Jim Simmons was able to accomplish at Renaissance Technologies, if you're familiar with Jim. So our primary goal as a firm is to essentially identify stocks that will 2x, 5x, 10x going forward. Of course, who isn't looking for that? But I believe we have a special weapon in our arsenal, and that special weapon is our software that is built on top of our mathematical approach. And that software can essentially, for example, scan the entire S&P 500, identify stocks that are coming up with important bottoms, because that's where you're going to get those 2x, 5x, 10x returns, right? You're not going to get it on the short side. And it is then able to project from those bottoms exactly what the underlying equity is going to do going forward in both price and time. And I'm just going to show you one of those examples today. We're going to be looking at one of our super equity / fast mover, which is called Molina Healthcare, and Molina Healthcare is going into a very important bottom, and once that bottom is put in place, the stock is gonna surge much higher and deliver those kind of returns that I'm talking about. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into that particular analysis and see what we're able to figure out. So for those who are not familiar with our work, you've never seen our videos, stick around. I'm going to explain very quickly what you're looking at. For those who are familiar with our work, skip forward probably 3 to 4 minutes and you're going to be in the midst of this analysis. So what you're looking at here is the triangles on top and the bottom is what we call cycle composites. It is a very simplistic visual representation of a very complex mathematical concept, and that concept is we scan the chart back in three-dimensional space. We identify these composites and we project them into the future. Okay, so obviously the bottom ones are responsible for the bottoms and the top ones are responsible for the tops. What makes matter a little bit more complicated, there are typically multiple composites running in any given market or any given individual equity at a time. So I always use Dow Jones as an example. Dow Jones has 2 bottom composites and 2 upper composites running at the same time. But if you put it together, if you know how to put it together properly, you can very closely replicate what you see in the 2-dimensional time and price chart, or the actual time and price line that you see on the chart here. Okay. As I say, composites get us into the neighborhood of an upcoming turning point, but the lines you see here is what we call cycle clusters. And this concept is very important. Also very simplistic representation of very complex concept, but basically this time around, we scan the chart back in multidimensional space, and we identify our proprietary cycles at this time that we project forward. And what we found over the years is that typically very important turning points, or not so important turning points if you're looking at the short-term time frame, that's the difference there, we're just looking at different cycles. Very important turning points happen not when any particular cycle hits, but when there's a multitude of cycles hitting at the same time. So let's say 2, 5, 10 cycles hitting at the same time. And the more powerful they are, the longer term they are, the more assured you're going to be that there's going to be a turning point there. Once again, Dow Jones example, March of 2009, March 6th to be exact, there were 15 very powerful cycles arriving in the same 3-day period of time within that time window. So anybody who is looking at the market and knows that, hey, you know, the market is selling off quite significantly, and there's a very powerful time turning point coming, could very well ascertain that there's going to be a bottom there, and of course that's exactly what happened. So once again, the composites get us in the neighborhood, and the clusters give us the exact turning point of what's going to happen. So let's look at, let me just unclick this for a second so it's a little bit easier to see. So what's going to happen to Molina Healthcare? As you can see, it is moving into a major cycle bottom right here. It is scheduled for March of 2026 with a possible extension into the 4th quarter of 2026. I talk about that in our report. By the way, we have a 30-day free trial associated with our service. All you have to do is request it, the link in the description of this video, and there we have exact targeting in both time and price. But nevertheless, basically we're looking for a very significant bottom coming in March of 2026. That's the first threshold, and secondary bottom is going to be in the fourth quarter of 2026. And then from that bottom, the stock is going to surge much higher into this major cycle top that is scheduled to arrive in April. Well, actually more than that, not April of 2026, but early into 2027. We have to make certain adjustments here. I forgot to put it here on the chart when I pulled it up this morning for this video presentation. So into 2027, from this bottom, approximately a 12-month period of time, it's going to increase from a major bottom to a major top. This qualifies this as a fast movers, okay, or as a fast moving stocks. When the situation is reversed, 75%, so let me back up here for a second. So a fast mover is an equity that is expected to increase or decrease quite substantially within a relatively short period of time of 12 months or less. So typically the move either up or down is 50% or more. Okay, so what we figured out in our research that I'm sure nobody is familiar with, well, nobody else is doing this kind of work because it has to do with multidimensional space. But basically what we figured out is there a very short period of time, 12 months or less, between the major cycle bottom and the major cycle top. As is the case here, the stock tends to move very fast. So if it's the reverse of this, bottom to top, typically 75% of the time, once again, there's going to be a crash in the underlying security or the overall stock market. In this particular case, what it indicates is that the stock's going to move quite significantly from the upside to, from the downside projected target here that I'll talk about here in a second to this particular top that we anticipate here. And I'll show you how incredible our software is and how we're able to calculate not only the bottom, but how far once that bottom is hit, the stock is expected to appreciate going forward. So let me minimize this for a second. And that's another representation of our three-dimensional calculations. I know it doesn't make any sense to you. It makes perfect sense to us. So stick with me. I'm going to explain exactly what you're looking at. So these green regions are all the possibilities associated with, in this particular case, the bottom. So we're looking for the bottom, right? And as you can see, it broke below this level, which indicates that the stock will eventually reach this level by most likely March of 2026 with a possible extension or a double bottom formation in the fourth quarter of 2026. So that's the region we're looking at. It's possible that it breaks below this region and goes all the way to pretty much zero. Or very close to, let's say, 10 or 20 bucks. That is quite a possibility, but we don't see that as a likely outcome. And the way we know is that if we around March and we're sitting around this region, that we know that the stock is going to bottom here. But if we are, if the stock was able, if the underlying equity, MOH in this case, is able to penetrate this level before that time turning point arrives, we know that it's going to the secondary level. So, but for simplicity's sake, let me just tell you that it's going to be this level, okay? So once the stock bottoms here, all we have to do, it appears very easy. So let me unclick this. But that's how incredibly powerful our software is. So all I have to do is do this. Now it's running multidimensional calculations in the back end. You don't have to worry about any of that, but that's the output. And what we know from our prior experiences, typically this level is mid-level, we call it mid-level, typically broken, and the stock continues to go much higher after that. So in this particular case, we anticipate the stock to increase, let's say, from approximately $100 a share to this level, $600, $500, almost $600 a share. But if you know our mathematical work, you know that typically this much greater green region has a higher probability. So perhaps not in this oscillation of the primary cycle, upside cycle, but in the next one, the stock is expected to reach this particular level of, let's say, $700 from approximately $100 a share to $700, or even if we hit this lower target at $500 a share, that's going to be a 5x return on, or 400 return percent on your investment. So that's quite significant because it's happening in a compressed time window, and that's the kind of power that our software generates, or we're able to essentially scan the entire S&P 500 and pick out the stocks that we anticipate to increase going forward this much. So I'm not aware of anybody else doing anything similar to that. Once again, we have a free trial associated with our work. There's a wealth of information. Not only do we do stuff like this, super equities, fast movers, but we have 52 mega cap stocks that we follow throughout the year, and we update it twice a year. Those are the majors. Those are the Microsofts, Nvidias, Apples, Teslas, some of the commodities, currencies, etc., even interest rates. Just a wealth of information. But we also have an overall analysis of the stock market and what's the stock market's going to do going forward. So I think you will find that wealth of information quite appealing. We do have a 30-day free trial until the end of November. So if you would be interested, now's the time to register. After that, it's not going to be available in free format. Link in the description of this video. All you have to do is request it. Don't forget to subscribe. We have a webinar coming up, but that one is not until, I believe, December 4th or whatever that Friday is going to be. So I'll let you know more about it as we approach. There's still quite a ways off. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be back with another update tomorrow. We're going to be looking at corn futures. That's going to be a regular update for our one of our mega cap stocks. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.